All right, good afternoon, everyone. I think we're ready to get started. And just call the meeting to order. I'd like to welcome you all here today. My name is Paul Peddle. I'm the Chair of the Traffic Safety Committee, along with my co-chair here, Bob. And I'd like to welcome Dan Bouchard, who's joining the committee today as our liaison and member of the committee from the Town Council side. Welcome, Dan. All right, so let's get started. Everyone sign the attendance sheet. If you haven't, just when you get a chance, please do so. And I think we have a few items on the agenda today. All right, first of all, did anyone get a chance to review the January meeting minutes?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to accept the January 6, 2025 meeting minutes as printed.
Okay, second?
Aye.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Against, no? Motion to accept the January 25th minutes has passed. All right, let's see, we have an agenda. Typically, our public comments go along with our connection to an agenda item, and you're welcome to come up and make any comments on those items.
Did you sign in?
Sign in, where?
Right up front here, Ray.
Oh. Sorry.
All right, I think the first thing tonight, Bob, I believe, wanted to read a statement into the record.
The reason I'm reading this statement into the record is essentially because now that we're being recorded, I feel that having a comment about how the recent election affected this committee and the town, I felt that I wanted to read this, so bear with me. As I start my 35th year on the committee today, as a member, chairman, vice chair, and part-time secretary, I feel compelled to speak out about the current traffic situation in town. The most common problem presented to us during my time in the committee is the speeding on our town roads. When I first moved into the town, the speed limit in some of the roads were 55 miles an hour. The measures we've taken over the years to drop these speed limits to 30 ended up being dropped to 30 miles an hour in 2004 by the town council coming in and making a mandate to change most of the towns down to 30 miles an hour. And we've implemented roving patrols by the Londonderry Police and additional stop signs on many of the roads. A non-binding resolution to drop the speed limit on Route 102 from 55 to 45 was rejected unanimously. Instead, we are constantly requested to install speed bumps and lower speed limits even more. Talking about the speed bumps first, the unintended consequences of speed bumps are the problems they create with emergency vehicles, with the fire and police departments increasing response time and possible loss of life because of delayed responses. With town maintenance like snow plowing, the wear and tear of the equipment, and the unavailability of that quick equipment waiting for parts and repair time. Not to mention the noise complaints we would receive budding neighbors about the noise of the bumps. In addition, the cost of changing all of the speed limits and installing the speed bumps, and the cost of possibly additional maintenance of speed bumps in town equipment and possibly civilian cars. In addition to lowering speeds on dead-end roads, which most of the speeding is possibly done by the residents of that road. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So lowering speed limits, again, does not solve the problem without enforcement personnel to write the tickets. The speed limit compliance is created with increased enforcement and a higher risk of being caught speeding. In Londonderry, if the police department were to increase their traffic control presence, it could lead to a noticeable decrease in speeding violations as the word got out of the presence of these patrol officers. So it boggles my mind that when we had an article in the town ballot to add, two articles actually, one to add one enforcement officer and another one to add two enforcement officers, whose only job is traffic enforcement, and to see that voted down on a 2-to-1 measure just kind of makes me feel strange, because these are the things we could have done to help solve some of the speeding problems we're having in town. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. All right. So we have a few items under unfinished business. I don't think Bob Marcinkowski, he's not here tonight, I don't believe. He had brought something in to us a couple of meetings ago, and I believe, John, you were gonna look at,
Yeah.
from an engineering standpoint, and we're talking about the intersection of Mammoth, Griffin, and South Road, a very dangerous intersection in town.
Yeah, I can bring the board members up to speed where I'm at with that. So again, back in January, yeah, there was some discussion regarding that particular intersection. Again, the problem is it's a skew intersection. Also, you're looking over your shoulder, you know, both ways, whether you're coming out of South Road or even out of Griffin Road. The speed is definitely, speed is an issue throughout the town. So, Jason was kind enough to share with me that PD had done a traffic study report back in, that encompassed a segment from October of 2014 through October of 2024. The report, so that for a 10-year period, there was the accident data indicated that there was, during this period, there were 31 accidents occurred at the intersection of Mammoth and South and Griffin Roads. The causation analysis of the 31 reported accidents, 61% were attributable to failure to stop or yield the right-of-way at the stop sign on Griffin and South. Other contributing factors including speeding violations, 12%, and driver inattentiveness of 10%. So out of those 31 accidents at the intersection of Mammoth and Griffin and South, 16% resulted in injuries requiring hospitalization or transportation to the hospital. So, what we had also talked about, we had talked about the possibility of applying for a New Hampshire Department of Transportation roadway safety audit, very similar to what we had applied for Route 102 here in town. And in discussions with both the Southern New Hampshire Planning as well as DOT. One big thing that they always look at is what was the result of those injuries? Again, the definition of, in what they call the severity of that injury is an incapacitating injury. For DOT, that means either crushed injuries, severe bleeding, head, chest, or limbs, broken bones, protrusions, or unconsciousness. So if any of those accidents result in one of those, they would, or death, that would fall under the ability to have that roadway safety audit done. So at this point, again, we know that there was 5 accidents. I need to work further with Jason, asking him to redact any of the information and determine whether or not, you know, any of those, what the results of any of those accidents were. So upon that, we'll be able to determine, do we fall under the guise of, in having DOT do the traffic, roadway traffic or safety audit, or does the town look elsewhere? In my discussions also with Southern New Hampshire Planning, there are other programs that the town may be eligible for them to look at that intersection.
If the DOT does it, how long before they'd be able to set the study up? How long would we have to wait?
That I don't know, Bob. Again, it all depends on what's in the queue and how many applications they get, very similar to 102. You know, we applied for it, they have to go through the application, they look at how many applications they got, and that's how it goes through the process.
Should we table this again?
We can. Yep.
So next steps.
Next steps, I need to reach out to Jason, ask him to look at those 5 injuries, and what was the result of those, were they incapacitating injuries? And determine that, provide the data to Southern New Hampshire.
Okay.
And they'll be able to tell us, yeah, it's gonna, you know, it'll fall under the DOT's ability to look at it, or we look elsewhere for other funds.
Right.
So if I get word that it's not, doesn't fall under the roadway safety audit, I'm gonna say, okay, what else? I'm not gonna wait till 3 months, say, here, guys, this is what I found out.
Right.
Okay? So,
I'll make a motion to table
just a minute, Bob.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
I'll work with Jason as well. Our reports are different than his, and may be helpful as well. So,
Yep.
I'd make a motion to table A1 and D until the July meeting.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Fred, for offering that as well. So you're referring to D being
Yeah,
21
D.
South Road you put down there too? Okay.
Yep. So A1 and D.
Okay, next up, under unfinished business is the townwide speed limit. Bob, how do we leave that, the last
It
one?
was, we were going to discuss and have a consensus about what we wanted to do. I think we know what the consensus is from the police department. And I think we're pretty sure how John feels about it, so I think we should just open it up for discussion.
Well, if you'd like, I'd go first on that, Mr. Ramsey. I think that this conversation has been coming up now for quite some time. I'd say probably the last 5 or 6 years, if the town's been willing to entertain the speed reduction to 30 throughout our community. It's been the stance of the police department based on these studies, all the directed patrols. It's clear and evident by the amount of complaints that we receive about speeding. It's clear and evident based on the information that people are gathering about our community, as far as, more residential, more commercial, more zoning issues, and building. I've said this many times, while we can't stop the progression of those things, we can't stop the commuters either. The only thing we can do is enforce and reduce speed. Enforcement's an ongoing issue. We know that's not going away anytime soon. And I think the next step the town should seek is a townwide reduction of 30. And I know this has been brought up before and it's failed. I don't recall the exact year. I want to say it was maybe 2017, around there. And I think it's worth visiting again. You can control your speed limits. You can't control how many people come through your town. So I think it'd be a great step to move our community in a safer direction by doing so.
Now, Kim, that would not affect state roads necessarily.
That's correct.
John, any thoughts there?
No comment.
No further?
I hate to ask this question, because I'm not sure how many roads we've got left that are 35. I know most of the collectors are. Well, what would the cost, John, have you got any idea what the cost would be for the sign changes?
Typically, it's about $300 a sign.
And how many roads have we got with 35 miles an hour?
I don't know off the top of my head.
At least 10 or 12.
Probably.
Okay.
I think some of those things, Mr. Ramsey, are also come down to, a lot of communities that are around us that have a townwide 30 posted in their town. It's at the entrances of the town lines. And it says, this is a 30-mile-an-hour community unless otherwise posted. So I don't believe that we would have to do this on every single road everywhere in town. I think if the town was to move forward and adopt this, you remove the 35s, you leave the 30s, and you add them to all the entrances into our community.
I was talking to a person from Massachusetts in law enforcement, and I guess Massachusetts just dropped their, when I was growing up in Massachusetts, they had 2 speed limits in Massachusetts, resident and thickly settled and so forth, and they just dropped their speed limit to 25 miles an hour for residentials, and it's automatic. They don't post the signs. It's just a state law that it's so, I assume that's something we could do. And again, one of the other things, if I remember correctly, you told us that this would help your officers because they wouldn't have to worry what the speed limit was on the road that they were on because all the roads would be at 30 miles an hour.
It's always helpful.
Any other
No, I was just going to just say that I know we've had some success dropping it to 30 on a couple of our feeder roads, and there has been success on those roadways, getting it to 30.
Historically, High Range Road, particularly,
High
as well
Range.
as Litchfield.
Litchfield, yeah.
Yeah.
At least you feel yourself, looking at the speedometer and, keeping it at a reasonable rate coming down there.
And just to give you a little bit of history, in 2004, we came up with a list that listed all the roads in town that were going to be at 30 miles an hour. High Range Road wasn't one of them. We did that, the town council did that and thing. So I think, if I remember correctly, what we have to do is we have to make a vote on this and then push it to the town council.
I was
for
gonna
them.
say, escalate it.
Okay, so we do a vote. I'll make a motion to change all the speed limits in town to 30 miles an hour. I'm sorry, I'll make a motion to present to the town council the suggestion or the the recommendation that this committee recommends all the roads in towns be changed to 30 miles an hour.
Is that all town roads, or do you need that?
Hmm?
Do you need to say all town roads, or?
Yeah,
We
all
should just
town
say a
roads.
townwide speed limit,
Townwide speed limit?
Townwide speed limit.
and they can determine 30 or whatever.
Okay, we have a motion to increase the town,
To decrease.
to decrease the speed limit in townwide to 30 miles per hour, to be escalated to the town council or recommended to the town council. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain.
Against?
I'm opposed.
Opposed? Okay, John. All right, motion passes. So we'll just need to look at, Kelly, next steps on how to do that the right way. Make
I
that,
think the liaison would bring that, if I remember correctly, when we did it the last time, the liaison would bring it to the town council, and Kelly would put it on the agenda, and you'd be bringing it to the town council.
Yeah, we can put it on the agenda, and the 5 of you can discuss it and determine if we need a formal ordinance or not.
Okay, all right. And the last one here, I think, Bob, you had initially brought up parking spaces, fire hydrants. I think you brought up Michael's Way. And that was being kind of looked into. I wasn't sure if,
John?
So if I can bring everyone up to speed with where we're at with that. So there are 3 or 4 hydrants that we've identified with, working with Brian Johnson and the fire department, that currently are not marked out accordingly. You know, no parking in front of the hydrants. Again, we've spoken with Woodmont Commons personnel. They intend to, once the weather is cooperative, which who knows when that'll be, we'll repaint those out so that there's no parking in front of it.
Okay.
My looking at it, I think part of it though too is, you know, the development that the apartments that are currently under construction. You look at the cars there, and most of those cars are part of the people that, the workers that are actually the construction workers that are working on those buildings. One thing that I'm gonna suggest when the next development that comes in there, the proximity to, if there's any fire hydrants on Michael's Way or wherever the road is, I'm gonna suggest and I've spoken with Brian about it, either we put a 4-foot Jersey barrier in front of it, or an 8-foot Jersey barrier in front of it. Brian says the boys can pull the hose over the barrier, and at least the thing will be open.
good point.
People won't be parking in front of it.
Yeah, we were talking about two of them lengthwise, so that, like a car parked, so nobody can park in between. And that would give us plenty of access. And we also talked with the owners of managers of the Baldwins. There's 2 parking spots that they have not striped yet, but are gonna be striped as well.
Okay.
I noticed that they did put signs up on the fence saying fire hydrant, no parking on Michael's Way.
Mhm.
And the striping is still there, which John was taking care of because they're waiting for the weather to do it. But I've noticed the parking is not happening there as much as it was, so those seem to be empty more times than they're full.
Yeah, and I think people just don't have the situational awareness.
Correct.
I don't think it's intentional, I think they just,
They see the sign, the parking thing, and they don't look onto the fence.
Well, when they can't get in it because of the Jersey barrier,
That'll
that'll
be
stop,
obvious, yeah.
you know.
Good catch, Bob. Yeah.
But John, shouldn't that be in place before they get their occupancy permit?
Yes, so again, Dan, what ends up happening though, right, somebody comes in, they update the parking, the striping and the area.
Yep.
The guy that they send out there, sometimes not the sharpest knife in the drawer, and his assignment is to stripe it out,
I think
so.
Fred and I had a conversation about this because he was concerned, that's why I brought it up at the meeting, and essentially, I think it's just lack of attention. As soon as I talked to Kevin, they realized what was going on, and I said, it behooves you more to do it, because if you guys have a fire while you're going through construction, they can't come down and help you out. And that seemed to start the ball, but then John and I talked, and we realized that this is a problem in some of the other developments that have come up in the past, where they haven't done the right striping for the fire hydrants.
So that's what'll end up happening, Dan, is if they're not coming in for a CO, it goes by the wayside.
Yep.
So,
But there's been enough noise made to this down at Michael's Way and around that area, I think they're paying attention. I think Kevin being involved with them has been a help too.
Okay, does this one need to stay on our radar, or can we remove it?
My suggestion to remove it, and I'll bring you an update. Hopefully,
I'll make a motion to
Let's-
remove it.
it'll be done.
We have a motion to remove. We have a
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, good. All right. Anything further under unfinished?
I'm good.
All right, under new business, we had a few residents that approached us since the last meeting. First up, Eric Marchand, 5 Overlook Ave, regarding a speed limit change on his road. If you'd like to step up and, is Eric here? This would be the first question. Nope?
If not, clearly he's not here. I spoke to him on the phone
Okay.
last week.
Okay.
He had concerns with not only some of the neighbors, but also delivery. So we had
Which is
some,
common, right? Yeah,
everyone's road has deliveries
right.
these days.
DoorDash and everything else.
So it's one of those things, Overlook is a dead end. We're aware of it, and we will try to address it when we can. Again, it's one of those things where it's all time of the day, so
Okay.
we did chat.
In lieu of what we just voted about the town thing, I think I'll make a motion to remove this from the agenda. Or we could actually, I guess we can say we'll table it until we find out what's happening with the town council.
Just for clarification, table which portion of this? You mean Overlook in
About
general?
changing the speed limit.
No,
No, he, talking about Article 8.
We're going through this
Oh, I'm sorry.
particular 5 Overlook.
I think Bob is making
I think we
a
can just
motion to
remove it.
Oh, I
remove.
thought we were doing
I'll let
We
him
were,
speak.
yeah.
Yeah.
A. I thought that was a speed limit change.
It is, but I think it's specific to that, and
Yeah, we discussed the concerns on Overlook.
Okay,
then doing directed patrols.
Kim can make the motion. I don't know what to do with it at that point.
I'll make a motion that we remove it from the agenda.
I second it.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Any opposed?
All opposed? Anyone? Nope. All right, get that one off. And kind of bundle that under the townwide. All right, Coriana Rousseau, I got that right? Hi, did I get that right?
It's Rossio, but that's
Rossio.
okay. I
Oh,
have,
so
I don't
close.
know if you guys want, I can put some extra papers of
Okay,
what I had written, so. Thank you.
Sit down, you and I can introduce.
you guys are familiar with Longwood? This is
Yep.
related to Longwood Ave, Road, rather.
Okay,
Okay.
should I just start?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'm here on behalf of the concerned residents in our neighborhood to formally request an installation of a road close to through traffic sign at the entrances to Longwood Avenue. I feel this measure is needed to address ongoing issues with traffic cutting through our residential neighborhood and creating serious safety concerns. It seems that drivers traveling between Auburn and Manchester use Longwood Ave as a shortcut to bypass a four-way stop at Auburn Road and Old Derry Road. And this has resulted in significant increases in traffic, especially during morning and afternoon commutes, which is a concern because there are multiple children in our neighborhood, upwards of about 20 kids in our neighborhood. Some take buses, some are younger. I have 2 toddlers, so obviously they don't take buses, but they still play outside. Frequent speeding has become an issue, well above the posted limits of 30 miles an hour, which still feels very high for me in a neighborhood, through a family-centered neighborhood. And also, it just resulted in a decline of peace and comfort in our neighborhood. While I know signage is not a guarantee that drivers will stop using Longwood Ave, it may cause people to think twice. That's, the hopefulness in me, but, people are who they are. these drivers speed with little regard for safety of our residents, including children who walk, bike, and play in the area. I don't know if there's any like questions that you guys have or how this works.
Questions from anyone?
I don't have any questions. I'm obviously familiar with the road in
Right.
town. We've been dealing with this off and on for 20 years.
Yeah.
It's clear and evident that if future development is established in that area,
Yeah,
Right,
that
we're gonna see
that
an increase in that. I think
Yeah.
that this is historically one of the situations that if you've heard Mr. Trotter explain and Mr. Ramsey over the past several decades up here, is that these things need to be considered. I think they should be looked at and vetted appropriately. I think, while not everything requires a study, I think there is enough indication there from residents and from patrol, police side of the house, that, cut-through roads are what people do.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's appropriate, I'm not advocating that people do that. What I'm saying is that that's what people do. And they do it because it's convenience, they're running late, and they don't wanna wait in a
Right.
three-way, four-way stop. So they rip through someone's neighborhood to get to where they need to go. I think that shutting down these roads, again, as Mr. Ramsey and Mr. Trotter would indicate, when you start doing this, you're gonna have every resident in town that has a through or a cut-through road in their area up here asking you to do this.
Correct.
Residents are going to say, as they always do, when are you gonna do something about it? Is it gonna take a child getting hit? Because that's what's said.
yeah, that's my biggest
These things are
concern,
always in
obviously.
the forefront of the Traffic Safety Committee, but also the Police Department. I hear the residents' concern. I cautioned about doing these things. I think that while it is important for the resident, it's important for them to talk about it, and they come to these meetings. It's important for us to listen. That's my 2 cents on it. Would I be opposed to it? Absolutely not. The trick for the police department is, what do? We're gonna tie up an officer sitting on this road, just waiting for a car to drive by, to find a motor vehicle infraction, to then stop him and inquire, and then we can take enforcement action. It's not as easy as people assume, that we just sit at one end or the other. Because it's not technically that simple. So it is for great consideration for the board, and I think something that maybe we should discuss.
One other thing, and not to put any words in Kim's mouth, but when you have no-through trucking, that's a great sounding situation, but no-through trucking essentially is very difficult to enforce, because if the people are working within the town and they have big trucks going from one part of it, they can go without any problems.
We already have a no through trucks
And
sign.
again, to enforce that, what I'm trying to make the thing is to enforce that.
Right.
It would have to be enforced the same way as with a vehicle. You'd have to follow the truck through to make sure they were going through
Yeah.
before. You'd have to do the same thing with a passenger car to see if they were
Correct.
going through
Yeah.
before it could be enforced.
Yeah,
tough.
I had reached out to the police department a couple of times. I actually even submitted like a video. I have a video tip that I had submitted. They had talked to me. They had talked about, upping patrol, and then, that lasts for a day or two, and it works
Right.
for a day or two, and then nothing. So I think I was hoping to have some sort of conversation stirred up about anything that can be done, like you guys said, changing the speed limits to 30, that's great for the town, but in a road that's already 30, which, seems pretty fast for a neighborhood, so I don't know.
Well, you could send a letter to the GPS companies telling them to stop telling people
Yeah,
how to
I
cut through your
know.
road too. I mean,
Yeah.
that's part of the problem we're
Right.
fighting.
I agree, yeah.
But more as a deterrent, I think, is what you're looking for, as
Right.
opposed to enforceability necessarily,
Again, I'm not
But I
opposed to
understand it opens a can of worms for everybody who
That's
wants
okay.
to.
It's a great concern to
Yeah.
bring forward, and I think if this is what the board is intended to do, is to hear concerns from the residents on traffic matters, right? So I think it's up for discussion, and I think we should have some more real quick as to give you some guidance, or, for the police department side, we can still do more enforcement, that's okay. That's what you guys pay us to do, right?
Right.
So we can continue to do that. The deputy chief of police, who oversees all the operations, is here tonight. He's listening, and he probably already has it written down to increase more patrols on Longwood.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to thank you for the time and the trouble you came to present this to us, and understand it's not going unnoticed, because these are some of the problems we've been working on for a number of years.
Thank you so much.
If I can
Thank you.
share my thoughts. So
sure, yeah.
I'm Mr. Trotter that Mr. Bernard keeps referring to. So again, I'm an engineer. Totally understand your concerns, but again, it's the consequences of putting up a no-through traffic sign. What does it really mean? So again,
Right.
we always go back to the book, because I'm a book geek. So again, if you start putting up signs that don't mean anything, that are unenforceable, we're gonna get into somebody that's got deeper pockets in the town of Londonderry, and they'll bring us to court. So what was the intention of that sign, you know? And I totally understand what you're saying, but
Yeah.
again, and my stance would still be the same. There's gonna be another way of curtailing this.
Okay, there's one there's a sign by our house that also is a no through way, so I was just,
And if you go back in
Curious.
time, and that hearing, I was. I had
saying the same thing, yeah.
Absolutely.
No, I agree, yeah, I get it,
That-
yeah.
That gentleman was a little more persistent, and
Well, I'm a stay-at-home mom, so I am very persistent.
totally get it.
Thank you, guys.
Yep.
I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Motion drop it.
So Kim, I think the PD is gonna probably do a little more enforcement out there, or looking into it, probably?
Yes, I think that's an appropriate measure, given her testimony, if you would, of the concerns. So I think we
wanna
should
table
continue to do that.
You know,
I think we should table it, and then if we continue to get more inquiries from the residents, I think then we'd rediscuss it again at the July one. And at that point, maybe we take a different approach.
Okay, I'll make a motion to table this till the July meeting.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
So, tell her we'll be talking about this, so she know.
What's that?
Tell her we'll be talking, so she'll know.
Yep, so we will keep this on the agenda.
Corianne?
We will keep this on the agenda and keep an eye on it. Okay. And directed patrols will be focused in that area as well. And please continue to make calls to the police department as well. Oh, Jason's all over that.
He's on it.
He's on it. All right,
She's here.
she's here, yep. And Maureen Hardy, Clover Lane, speeding concerns as well. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Maureen Hardy, 13 Clover Lane. First, a thank you to Chairman Peddle, Dave Woolley of the DPW, Chief Bernard, Deputy Chief Breen, and the LPD. I had a nice conversation with Dave about the rules against speed tables or bumps, and Chief Bernard and Deputy Chief Breen have put directed patrols in the area, but I'm wondering if we could do more. I'm coming to you for help if there is any that you can offer for our newly approved town street. It was approved in the fall of '24. It is Clover Lane in Lorden Commons in northeast Londonderry. Our internal cross street, Cala, is part of the subdivision and has been owned by the town for a couple of years and also has speeding. We are dense residential. We have 134, mostly 3-bedroom homes on 0.5 acre lots. Our street, Clover, is basically a straight line, like a throughway, and there's a great deal of speeding on it. Cala is more curved, but just recently had a traffic circle removed and is therefore newly straighter. Neighbors are cognizant of speeds. We kind of keep an eye on each other. But delivery drivers like DoorDash, Walmart, or Amazon tend to go quite fast. When Old Dairy Road is closed, due to perhaps a downed tree or power line, our street, Clover, and Cala Road become major thoroughfares. There's just a line of cars driving through our neighborhood. The main issue, since we have no sidewalks, is that we have many babies and small children who live on the street. I estimate 70 to 90 children, mostly small, but also preteens and teens. We have moms and grandmas walking these babies in strollers on the street. Children who are dropped off by the school bus often must walk in the street for a few houses to get home. We want our children outside in fresh air playing and not inside on screens. Playing together outside is so much better. We have people who like to walk for exercise in the neighborhood and many who walk their dogs down to the common areas. Electric and hybrid cars, while they have artificial noise generators, are still very quiet and can sneak up on a pedestrian. We are asking for some way to slow down the traffic. We have turtle crossing signs on the 2 bridges, but they only face in one direction of the traffic. They should be facing in both directions. We do not think that they are slowing traffic. It is admirable to try to save the turtles, but how about the children? Can we lower the speed limit for dense residential areas? Can we put a yellow line on the side of the road, maybe about 3 feet out from the curb, as a designated walk area? Can we put slow children playing signs? Can we put stop signs at regular intervals along the street? Please help.
Thank you.
I have some Lord and Commons people here.
So, other residents?
Yep.
All right, some discussion?
I guess I'll go
I
first
look
again.
right at you.
Why not? So thank you for your well-thought-out, well-written thoughts and concerns for your neighborhood. I'm not sure how long you lived up there, but this has been a concern since that road was established. We've been listening to residents with some concerns for the past probably 2.5, 3 years on that. Also heard from residents about school buses. To give you some history here, what we did reach out to the school company. They do have these things monitored, their school buses. They were able to get speeds and incidents that happen. We didn't find any, I want to call it significant, but anything that was concerning for the PD based on the school bus complaints. We did speak to the school district back then, and we reminded them about the area. Whereas, you get a lot of people coming and going, looking at the new subdivision, they're checking it out, they're not paying attention, they're looking at the houses, I get that. I think a couple things come into mind when I think about that area is, it is a straight shot. There is a lot of action up there, cars coming back in and out. I understand loud and clear what that means to you and your residents. I also understand the fact that when this subdivision was approved or wasn't approved with sidewalks or signage or speed bumps and all the areas of expertise that John and the staff that put together when they create these, I think that the enforcement side of the house is relatively, I don't want to say easy, but, it's the posted speed and we go up there. And we have spent time up there, as you may or may not have seen the officers up there at different times of the day.
Yeah.
We have the most recent one. They were there for 2 weeks and they were unable to have any motor vehicle violations and no enforcement action was needed or taken at that time. Now, that doesn't mean that people don't speed in your neighborhoods, like I've said before, many times up here for the last several years. As it was alluded tonight, when the cops are there, everyone slows down, and they all know. And when we're gone, it goes back to normal driving behaviors when there's no police to monitor. It's a frustrating process. It seems like it never works out in the residents' favor, but there are times when it does work out. The old Mammoth Road signage and stop sign issue, that was on the traffic safety for probably, hate to guess, maybe 4 to 6 times before we were able to get enough data together and a consensus by this board to go ahead and take action with the recommendation of the town council. I think your neighborhood is unique. As you pointed out, half-acre lots, there's a lot of people in there.
It's a density.
And to what another resident had said, yeah, 30 miles an hour does seem fast in the neighborhood. I wouldn't disagree. But again, I think there needs to be a very systematic and a diplomatic and thoughtful approach to how do we fix this throughout our community. Your road is more important than your neighbors. Your neighbors in here, their road's more important than yours. We all understand that. When there's 4 or 5 officers working and we have over 500 roads in town and we have 4 or 5 of these things a day in different parts of the town, something has to give. I'm not gonna make excuses. We can't be in everyone's road every single day. It's impossible. But, with this action here that you have done today and residents have been doing for the last couple of years, the police department will continue to monitor these things as they come in to the best of our ability. And I strongly think that, as I've been advocating for a while now, 30 miles an hour is about time. I think this town deserves it. The residents deserve it. I know some don't like it, but if people really and truly care about their community like they say they do, and they care about the kids and the people out there, they'll come together and unite and request that this thing get dropped. So thank you for that. We're going to keep it on our radar. That's my long-winded reply to you. So somebody else can go.
So Kim, the 2 articles that failed in March, right? One was to have 1 patrol officer, right? One, and I'm probably saying the wrong things. 1 patrol officer, and then the other one was to hire 2 patrol officers, or traffic
Traffic safety.
You tell me.
Traffic enforcement, traffic unit, yeah?
Yeah, so it had at least one of those, this would be something where you could direct them
Yeah.
to go out to, and, because again, that, as I understand it, that person would be here 8 hours a day,
Yep.
40 hours a week,
Yep.
and that's what his role would have been.
Correct.
So it would have been very helpful, I think.
It would be, because I think the issue that Maureen and other residents have brought up is when we assign a directed patrol, we can say the sergeant who oversees the operations for that crew would say, Cala Road, early morning commuting time frame between 6 AM and 7:30. So they can go up there for 15 or 20 minutes at a time, unless there's another call for service that they have to leave and go do. Well, if the timeframes aren't what the residents tell us, well, it wouldn't make sense for us to have someone sitting up there when there's nobody or commuting at that time. So the point of the warrant article that was proposed by the Budget Committee and others was, how can we do this? And the suggestion, in my professional opinion, was if we had a quote-unquote traffic unit, and that was their sole responsibility, was to enforce motor vehicle and enforce driving behaviors and enforce these directed patrols in neighborhoods. To answer your question, yes, we would be giving the community back upwards of 40 hours per week, which would obviously double if we had 2 members. And in the summertime, we repurpose the SROs who aren't in the school. We put them on these directed summer patrols for traffic enforcement already. We do that in the summer. But again, you know, the patrol officers still have vacation days, they still have families, they still have sick time, they still have other assignments and trainings we have to assign them. So even if we had 1 or 2, it's better than nothing. But we don't give you nothing, we still give you the best that we can, so,
And I
So
think,
those- just a minute, Bob. So these individuals would have been able to deal with Clover, Longwood, Overlook, Cala,
yeah,
all of these,
sure.
right? So it's,
Sure.
and my point being, it's kind of unfortunate. 4,900 people showed up to vote, and obviously, majority, that wasn't their concern,
and I think there was,
unfortunately.
that was taken into consideration. I don't know, because I wasn't there, but I think the way the articles were written, I think they came up with 2 officers in one article and 1 officer in the other article, hoping one of them would pass.
Yeah.
And none of them passed.
Yeah, I think, and I'll publicly admit, I think part of that's my fault, because when asked what the wish list solution would be for the PD, I had thrown that out there. And not realizing that there wasn't a ton of support from Budget Committee, with the unanimous vote and/or the town council, I should have diverted that. But I figured it was better than nothing, and I was hoping that the community would find some value in that. But this isn't the place for me to articulate that warrant article. But I think the issue here tonight is how can we help our residents, hear their concerns, and how are we gonna help fix them?
And I think that's why I was irritated with what I read this morning, is because for that to be voted down 2-1, and anything we've tried along those lines to try to do stuff other than just changing signs that don't create any solution, they make the people feel good, but people are ignoring the 30 miles an hour just like they ignored the 35. So that was an answer to some of the problem we have. So it's very hard when we're fighting with one hand tied behind us.
And I know we haven't done much from other types of signage, like slow children, those type of things. How are those? I don't,
We don't put up unenforceable signs.
so it's enforceable signs is what we've said before.
Correct.
It's just because they're
Black on
they're
white.
just ignored.
Pretty
So-
much.
In your area over there, if we put stop signs up, would that help, you think?
I think it would, because
So-
at least Clover is not perfectly straight, but very straight.
Right.
And I didn't even notice it till I was talking to a neighbor, and, cars are just whipping by us while we're out talking. And he said, well, look, this is like a speedway here, it's just a straight road.
So Clover and Cala does not have a stop sign today?
There's a stop sign at the intersection of Clover and Cala.
There is one there.
There is one there. But we also have those turtle crossing signs, which I think you say are
Not a lot of
unenforceable.
opportunity for stop signs.
But maybe if
There
you
isn't.
just turned one of them
Unless that goes
So
against the
that
manual
they face both direction.
I'll have to take a look at
And
what we do.
They're on-
what results
They're
out
on
there right
Cala
now.
and they're also on Clover.
I know where they are, Maureen, and again, how they're orientated, I'll have to take a look at it.
Okay, thank you.
Jim decided they were gonna do that.
there was a density factor to that, Dan, so
Right, 'cause
What do you-
I know
so
like on
kind of
Old,
applies.
yeah, on Old Mammoth, I think it made a big impact.
Yeah, it did.
So it did work,
I just don't see a lot of opportunity for stop signs on
Right.
Cal. It's just a straightaway,
right.
which is the reason why they're flying.
And also, Maureen, I just want to, as far as, our officers not being voted in on the ballot, I think a lot of that discussion also has to do with as many vacant positions as we have on the police department. If we filled those, maybe we could use those for traffic safety as well. So we have quite a few vacant positions now. We just need to get those filled so we can get you more traffic safety out there. Thank you.
And I know in the past, we've talked about striping the road to slow people down. I think this all came up with, with
No,
that.
she asked
with
something about
Mammoth.
striping in her.
Yeah, well, it was just a suggestion that you put a yellow stripe down the road about 3 feet out from the curb to kind of indicate a walking area. I don't know if that's possible, but if there's other striping that,
Do we have white
I'm
striping
open to
on that?
anything.
Do we have white striping on that?
No striping at all in that subdivision. The striping is the stop bars.
So again, has that been shown to slow anyone down, or?
Not to my understanding.
No.
No,
I think that was our first attempt on Mammoth, Old Mammoth.
it was actually fog lines.
Right, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
That's what it was.
Well, I guess the question I'm asking is the striping that we have on a lot of the roads that indicate the edge of the road. Do we have anything like that on these two roads?
No, we do not.
Should we have anything?
No.
Okay.
Where do we want to go?
What's that?
Where do we want to go? Continue the focus on director patrols? Is there anything else we can?
I think that's the easiest solution at this current moment. I know Maureen mentioned stop signs. I know we discussed how it did work on Old Mammoth. I think we should do like we did with Old Mammoth. We should continue to monitor, continue enforcement action for now, and then potentially revisit that option. I don't know where that subdivision is, if it's all built out, if it's done, if there's
Oh,
still
yeah.
more going. I'm
In the
not sure
future,
either.
right, if there's more roads coming off of Clover.
I just
guess.
don't know.
No, it's finished.
It's finished,
It is.
That's why our road was approved a few months ago.
okay.
Yeah.
Again,
The
it's
last
just- there's
house
just
has
not a
been
lot of
sold.
opportunity for stop signs.
I would
Yeah.
suggest that the traffic safety committee go through that neighborhood at some time and don't speed, but also to actually realize how close those driveways are to one another. So again, where does the stop sign, where should the stop sign be placed?
Right.
So again, you have a stop sign that people are stopping in front of somebody's house.
Yeah,
and
no,
when they-
I'm not suggesting
Yeah,
that, John.
let me finish, Paul.
Yeah.
And then they get in the car, and they start to accelerate.
Yeah.
So the person, you're stopping them in front of my house. Why'd you stop them in front of my house? Why didn't you do it in front of Bob's or Dan's,
Yeah.
So it's
And then you
highly
have,
congested.
the fumes problem.
I'm just saying, we don't have intersections there to put up the traditional stop sign.
The intersections that are there are signed
They are-
properly.
Correct, right,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying.
I don't know where we go from here.
I'll make a motion that PD perform directed patrols, and we keep it on the agenda for further discussion.
And if you have times where you see specifically when the traffic or the volume on that road is specifically fast at a specific time during the day, give the police department a call and let them know that this is the time where you're seeing this heavy traffic, and that might help them figure out where to put the directed patrols.
Okay.
I know we did that, some other, directed patrol issues with residents before. And it's not just, specifically mornings, it's, as they were saying, it's Amazon coming 65 times in an hour and UPS, everyone. I mean, we should just make a substation there and hang out for Maureen for a couple weeks, Hang out over
Yeah,
there.
come hang out.
As long as you have coffee and donuts, maybe we'll be there.
Maybe not donuts,
Oh,
but,
come on now.
Are you having high speed with the delivery trucks?
oh, yeah.
Have you
Everyone's,
thought about and again, maybe this is a bad suggestion, have you thought about writing down the number plate on the thing and calling the delivery headquarters?
I could try that, but it, you know, I can't always see it. They're
I
driving.
understand that, but I'm saying,
Yeah.
and even if you can't, if you see it's, and again, I'm not sure who you call with Amazon, I know who you could call for Federal Express and UPS. But I mean, it might be, I
You
don't,
know, the DoorDash drivers are really bad. They're,
yeah, and
I
the
don't know.
DoorDash, they're all,
they're like vroom. Vroom. They're just vroom.
Right.
Yeah,
which means the pizza places are probably doing the same thing too.
yeah.
All of our neighborhoods are
Yeah.
dealing with that.
I mean, I think this is another example of why 25 in these residentials is really important
Yeah, thank you.
Versus 30.
versus 30.
The only thing is, Chief, if we drop the speeds to 25 in those neighborhoods, is that enforceable in court? Because I know years ago,
If it's a private road, no.
no, but I'm, town road, town road. I know years ago on town roads, if you went to court, the judge would say 25 is not a legal speed limit.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. That would seem kind of silly to me, but
I thought the
Judge
statute
Warhol.
limits it to
And
30.
again, that's the same problem we're running into now. We've dropped all the speed limits down to 30, which supposedly, based on what you just said, and I remember that, it was 30 is the lowest